Today, I want to do a little bit of a thought experiment with you. Let's say that you want to take the transatlantic ferry, if you will, from New York over to the United Kingdom. It's about a week-long trip, but it's relaxing, definitely luxury travel. You embark, and soon after you get on the ship, you realize that the National Organization of Women is having their national annual meeting. And there's about 1,000 of these feminists. Never seen so many facial piercings in one place in your life. But nevertheless, you're like, okay, I'm just going to endure it. It's going to be fine. It's still, a great trip. Well, halfway across the Atlantic, a storm's brewing. Rogue wave hits the ship. Half the lifeboats are lost to this wave. The ship is taking on water. Captain says, abandon ship. Everyone's got to get on a lifeboat. Well, half the lifeboats are gone. Now, in addition to all these crazy women and you, there's normal people there. There's families. There's normal people just trying to make that trip. So what happens here? The whole women and children first thing is not actually a maritime law. It's just a tradition that started with the British Navy, like in the 1850s when some ship sunk. So what happens next? Is it women and children first? Or is it every man for himself? Today I want to talk a little bit about chivalry. Is it dead? Did feminism kill chivalry? Is it still alive and well? Should we kill it? This is Life 2.0. Let's talk about it. So going back to our thought experiment here for a minute. Modern feminists want it both ways. They want to have all the advantages of being a man and all the equality and all that stuff they get, but they also want all the protections that go along with being a woman. So this is where the idea that women want, all the benefits with none of the accountability. And that definitely is the case. And I'm sure that in this fictional scenario, that's exactly what would happen. I can't imagine all these feminists jumping up if the captain says women and children first, and they're going to say, what? What kind of sexist bullshit is this? We're going down with the ship. What's interesting is when the Titanic went down, that was another one of those women and children first scenarios. 80%, about 80% of the women survived. And about 80% of the men died. That means that 20% of the women and children went down with that ship. And 20% of the men got on a lifeboat. So men have been sacrificing themselves on behalf of women for a very long time. The concept of chivalry goes back to the medieval times when knights were trained in chivalry. So I'm not talking about just these noblemen with a horse and a sword, that kind of knight. I'm talking about a real knight, the kind of knight that went into training when he was 7 or 8 years old and had to go through the whole thing of being a page and then a squire. And after 10 or 15 years of training and testing, finally made it to actually being a knight. These were the Crusaders. These guys were badasses. They were like special forces. They were like athletes. They were more than just a cut above the average man. They were extraordinary. And chivalry was part of their code. This was something that they embraced and they applied it not just with being kind to women, but their relationship with their church and their community and just acting in honorable ways. I mean, it was an entire code, went way beyond just helping women or being protective of women. But that code of chivalry has been carried forward, for hundreds of generations. And now, in this post-feminist age, we as men are kind of scratching our heads thinking, well, if I'm on a crowded bus and some woman gets on, do I give up my seat for her? Is that the right thing to do? So when I was born in 1965, there were just a little over 3 billion people on the planet. Today, there are over 8 billion people on the planet. So just in 60 years, we have more than doubled the entire population. So the argument for male sacrifice, for us, protecting women to allow for the continuation of the species, it's a hard argument to make, because we could lose more than half and it would still be crowded. You know what I mean? Like, I remember back, I was like 10 years old, and I asked my dad about the population. I think maybe I saw something on the news, or it had come into my head that we had crossed 4 billion people. And he said, yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do. There's famines in Africa. The Chinese, God bless them, they can't find any food to eat. Everything's looking really bad. And what we're gonna do, we need to stop all this screwing. People need to stop doing that. Well, that was when I was 10, that was 50 years ago. So now we're to 8 billion. So just think about it. We could lose 1 out of 2. Like, every other person could be wiped off the planet, could just disappear, and it would still be crowded. There'd still be a lot of people here. So we don't need to be sacrificing ourselves for women. They don't get that. And feminism has basically said that they don't want us to sacrifice them. They're telling us that they want to have responsibility. They want to be responsible for themselves. Now, I don't know if that's really what they're saying. I think that maybe what they're really saying is they just want all the benefits of being a man without any of the responsibilities. What's really interesting is when they're all out there protesting for equal pay and equal rights and all that stuff, not one single protest that I can remember ever addressed the issue of selective service. Like, they never came out and said selective service is wrong, we shouldn't have it at all, like that's a bad idea, or that it's wrong that only men have to register, like women should have to register too. So, if they really felt strongly about equal rights and equal responsibilities, then obviously they would have been out there, waving the flag about selective service, but that never happened. Same thing goes for all those other tough jobs. Like, you don't find a lot of women complaining about not being able to get jobs as coal miners or, working on telephone poles. And even though there's women in police and fire, the vast majority are still men. I think it's like 85 or 90% are still men. So when things go wrong, when the shit hits the fan and your life is at stake, it is still expected that a man will make that sacrifice on behalf of a woman. I'd like to know what you guys think about that. I find it humorous that these days there's all this hand-wringing over the what's happening with male-female relationships. We're seeing that the marriage rates are dropping, divorce rates are increasing, and we're all trying to figure out, why is this happening? And the answer is so obvious. Again, it goes back to that idea of the fish in the water, and a fish in toxic water doesn't realize that it's in toxic water. And we are in toxic water. For thousands and thousands of years, there was a social contract that worked pretty well. Now, I know there'll be people who will scream out, well, there were these extreme cases where there was abuse and there was, people taking advantage and there was all these terrible things that happened. But for the most part, this contract worked. Men provided and protected. They provided provision. They sacrificed when necessary. Women nurtured. They respected. They appreciated being taken care of. When sacrifices need to be made, when someone called out women and children first, there was never, no, I wouldn't say never, there was generally not an argument about that. 80% of the men went down with the Titanic in 1912. So, if we were to carry that forward to 2025, and that scenario occurs, post-feminism, what are we left with? Every man for himself? When the rescuers get there, is it just going to be a bunch of dudes in lifeboats with all these dead female bodies floating around as shark food in the water? Is that what we're going to have? Is that the way we're going to work that out? Are we going to do that, guys? Are we going to let them die in the water? We'll save the kids. We'll save the kids. We're going to be the heroes. Be us and the kids. We'll be playing Nintendo or something in the lifeboat, waiting for the guys to come and get us. No, I don't think that's what's going to happen. You know why? Because it's stuck in our brains. We're just too stupid. We will give up our seat on the lifeboat for some woman that we've never even met. More often than not, men will still do it. Because that chivalrous idea of sacrificial man exists not just in our culture, but I think it's in our DNA. It's something that we're just almost compelled to do. The irony here is, as women are screaming that they don't need men, that men are worthless, we don't need a man, all men suck, all men should die. They'll do that. They'll do that. They'll act like they can be independent, like men are superfluous to their nature. They don't need men in their world. Hell, they can just bottle sperm and kill the rest of us off, and they can have sperm frozen for 1,000,000 years and just keep reproducing without us, and they can kill all the male babies if they want. That's what they think. That's what they think. But the truth of the matter is, they know that our nature is to provide and protect. They know that so confidently that they can speak as if they don't need us. When in reality, they know that they can use that nature that we have to provide and protect to manipulate us, to control us, to leverage us to behave in ways that they need us to behave at times when they need us to behave that way. It's a weird and crazy world that we live in, but unfortunately, that is just the way things are. The irony is, this whole chivalrous thing oftentimes gets conflated into being Mr. Nice Guy. And we all know how that turns out. You turn into a simp. Next thing you know, you're living your life with your woman at the center of it. And that blows up the whole world, because now she's in control. She doesn't know what to do with all this power. She doesn't have respect for you anymore. And you no longer are a man in your own house. You're not even wearing the pants anymore. That's what they used to say back in the 50s. Who wears the pants in that house? Yeah, she's wearing the pants. He has no pants. So, what has to happen here is there needs to be a line in the sand, you know? It does require a certain amount of judgment. Like, you can't just say all women suck, because that's not necessarily true. But you need to observe and decide who you're going to give your metaphorical seat up to on that metaphorical lifeboat. You know, whose life are you going to save? Because I guarantee you I would not be giving up my seat for one of those feminazi lesbians with the facial piercings as the ship's going down. I am not doing that. I'm letting them be shark food, man. They are done. I don't give a fuck. Do not give a fuck. Me and the kids and all the guys can be in the lifeboats playing Nintendo, and I will be completely fine with that. It's like, yes, we are here and we are alive. And the sharks are well fed today. Here's the thing about chivalry, though. At the end of the day, chivalry is about the man, not about the woman. You know what I mean? So that makes it kind of difficult. So when I think about those medieval knights and what badasses they were, you know, they weren't checking people's, you know, character before they would, you know, defend their honor or whatever. So I don't think that's necessarily the right path forward. But I do think there does need to be a new path for chivalry. Like, we can't continue on this male sacrificial path, you know what I mean? Especially in a situation where you have so many women that are so determined to take on male roles. And if we continue to enable them to have all the privileges of equality with none of the responsibilities of equality, then we are at fault. We're making it possible. We are encouraging that behavior. So we have to find a way to determine at what point chivalry is applicable and at what point it is not. And that's what I want to talk about next. So the first one on my list is you cannot do anything in your life for the approval of a woman. You do things because that's who you are. So if being kind and generous and opening doors and giving up seats is who you are as a man, then you do that. You just do that. That's just who you are. And if she doesn't appreciate it, fuck her. It's not your business. You're just being the man that you are. If that's not who you are, don't do it. Don't do it. If you don't feel like that's who you are as a man, that's not what you want to be, there's nothing wrong with that. You just say, you know something? They're all a bunch of feminists. I'm sitting in the seat. I'm not giving it up. I'm getting on the damn lifeboat. That's the end of story. No way around it. But when you live for yourself, that's authentic. That's real. And that's the best you can be. You know what I mean? It's not about trying to impress society or impress women or impress anyone for that matter. It's about being the best version of yourself and living your life authentically. And if whatever behavior you choose is who you are and what you want to be, then that's fine. Just let it be. That's just acceptable. That's good enough. We can also apply selective chivalry. So what I mean by that is, make sacrifices for women who show reciprocal respect. When you see a woman that you believe, for whatever reason, either because you know her personally or because you just observed her in public, whatever, this woman is a good, kind, thoughtful, respectful woman, and she would honor any sacrifice that you made on her behalf, and she would show true gratitude and appreciation for that sacrifice, then yeah, maybe that's the way you do it. You say, okay, I'm going to be the kind of guy that gives what I get, you know? So if I can see a woman out there that is respectful of men and she honors the sacrifices that we make, then I'm fine making a sacrifice on her behalf. But for all those feminazis out there who are, claiming that they don't want men to make sacrifices for them, they don't want guys to pick up the check, they don't want guys to open doors, they don't want guys to give up their seats, then yeah, screw them. You know, those are the same women that get left on the ship. You know, there'll be no lifeboats for them. You know what I mean? So maybe that's the way we do it. Just be selective. Make a decision. What kind of woman do you want to save? Maybe if this happens enough, some worldwide calamity, we can clear off some of these feminists. We can get things back in order. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm saying is that the population explosion and the advent of feminism, I believe, has freed men from the obligation of being sacrificial. We no longer need to be giving up our seats to women when life and death situations occur. We can make the choice as to whether that's who we are or whether or not we think that woman deserves that seat. We're no longer honor bound. Society does not need us to do that anymore. Women do not bring more value to the world as a whole than men do. And that's the bottom line message. Back in the old days, women brought a certain level of value because they were necessary for reproduction. And they still are, don't get me wrong, they still are. But we have 8 billion people on the planet, and women outnumber us by at least, 400 or 500 million. So there is a plethora of women. You know, like I said, we could get rid of every other one and we would still have more than we had 50 years ago. And it was crowded back then. I'm telling you, there was still traffic. So I believe that as men, we need to reconsider what it means to be a man in relationship to women. We don't have to sacrifice ourselves. We don't have to put ourselves in positions of submission in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, any kind of submission to a woman is inevitably going to lead to disaster. I touched on it earlier, but the social structure that lasted for thousands of years where men provided and protected and women were nurturing and respectful, that worked for a long time and it worked well. And we built an entire culture and society around it. Civilization grew from hunter-gatherers to modern age just until like the last 40 or 50 years without any significant changes to that structure. Now, I'm not saying we need to go back to women not voting or not getting jobs or any of that stuff, but I am saying that there needs to be a resurgence of these traditional gender roles. I think that there is a powerful argument to be made for defined masculinity and defined femininity in our culture. And when those gender roles are honored and respected and are held in high regard on both sides, both for the masculine and the feminine, because I think both get slammed by the feminist culture that we're in now, we can get back to an environment where men and women get married, they date, they have children, they have homes, you know? We can build a society that is healthy and strong and is vibrant. The current state of feminism and the current state of Western civilization that has moved so far in that direction and so much in favor of female empowerment has undermined women while at the same time undermining men. The idea that they were going to push women forward into something that would be beneficial to them has resulted in them seeking out mental health help at an enormous rate. 50% of women are seeking out mental health help during the course of the year. 25% every year are taking some kind of a drug for anxiety and depression. I mean, they are not happy. The more feminist a woman is, the less happy she is on an independent scale. So feminism is not working for men and it's not working for women. And there is no reason for us to continue playing this game that this is a good idea. I mean, I think that we're all very equanimous when it comes to the idea that people should have equal opportunities and equal rights. But at the same time, we need to honor the differences that people bring to the table. I made the case in one video, I think last year sometime, that the NBA has a disproportionate number of black guys. And no one is saying that they are discriminating against white guys. You know what I mean? They're not. They're just not. The reason why there's more black guys in the NBA is because they're just better athletes. They're just better players. They're better. They're just better at it. Well, that's the same thing with men and women. There are just some things that men are just better at. And we just need to honor them for that. And there are just some things that women are better at. And we need to honor them for that. And the differences make a perfect whole. They really do. We only get into trouble when we start crossing over en masse, when we want women to start getting the same benefits as men without any of the responsibilities. That's where the whole system breaks down, and that's where it needs to stop. Anyway, I've been ranting. I'm gonna let it go. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, gotten a laugh out of it. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you know someone who might enjoy a good laugh, or this is an issue they might have some interest in, please share the video with them. Anyway, until next time, stay healthy, and if you can, stay single.